Good evening, my name is Katelyn DiBenedetto, and I'm a Ph.D. student in the Department of Anthropology, and my advisor is Dr. Alan Simmons. Humans collectively consume a lot of water. Because of this, what happens when we mismanage our water resources? Well, we have a water crisis like we have here in the West. These images of Lake Mead with the bathtub-like rings have become iconic. They represent the reality that the reservoir has not been full in decades. In fact, it seems like almost every summer, or at least the last few that I've been here, we have broken records for lowest water level to date. But this is a larger issue. It's not just Lake Mead that's in trouble, it's also the whole Colorado River Basin as a whole. And it's really largely due to the fact, or partly due to human mismanagement of water. And this includes farm subsidies that go to crops that are water intensive, laws that promote water waste, leaky and broken infrastructure, and so on. But it's not just us here in the West that are facing issues related to water resource management. It has been projected that if we do not become more efficient with water resource management, then by 2040, the demand for fresh water will be greater than the supply of fresh water. Water will increasingly be used as a weapon. Countries upstream will impede or completely cut off downstream flow, and water terrorism and water wars will become more likely beyond the next decade. It is very clear that water resource management is important for us here in the West, for other parts of the country, and globally. Yet, it remains one of the under-discussed issues of this presidential election. Now, by this point, you're probably like, wow, this is kind of depressing, and she's not painting a very happy picture of the future for human sustainability. But actually, I'm pretty optimistic about the future of humans because I believe in human resilience and human innovation. My perspective has been shaped by what I study. I am an anthropologist and an archaeologist, and I use case studies from the past to better understand how humans come together to collectively find solutions to problems dealing with water resource management, and what, if anything, these problems and solutions can tell us about the current problems we're facing today. So, believe it or not, issues related to water resource management are not new, and really they extend back about 12,000 years ago to the time period known as the Neolithic Revolution. This development first occurred on mainland Southwest Asia, or what you might be more familiar with, the Middle East, and it truly is this transformational time in human history for a number of reasons, but one of which is that we began to domesticate plants and animals. And in fact, some of the plants and animals that we first domesticated remain important for the American diet, so cattle, pig, wheat, barley, all of that really came out of this time period. My specific research is looking at the eastern Mediterranean island of Cyprus, which is about 62 miles off the coast of mainland Southwest Asia. And I'm interested in looking at the first permanent human settlers to this island, which began in the Neolithic. One of the most fascinating aspects about these people is that they had to bring all major plants and animal resources with them. This raises the question of how did they manage these economic resources that they brought with them, as well as the finite natural resources of the islands, including water. One of the most significant constraints on Cyprus is actually access to water, and this is because the island is semi-arid. The majority of the water comes from either rain or snow, and both of these don't occur very often. And so we don't have much in terms of archaeology for Neolithic water management strategies. Really, the only physical remains that we have are these. So I know this might be really shocking, right? An archaeologist showing you guys a picture of a hole in the ground and then someone in the hole. But actually, these are super important. These represent some of the earliest wells in the world. They're located at sites that didn't have access to a permanent year-round fresh water supply and that didn't receive much annual rainfall. You still might be thinking, okay, it's kind of cool, but it's still a hole in the ground, right? But the Hoover Dam is kind of just a large hole in the ground, and yet it's considered to be one of the great engineering feats of humankind. This is exactly what these wells would have been like for these Neolithic peoples. It was an active water management strategy done by them in order to overcome issues related to water access and water availability. But these wells, just like the construction of the Hoover Dam, wasn't done on a whim. Rather, people had to come together and have discussions. The next decade is really, really critical in terms of what we do with our water management policies. If we decide to fix them and make them more efficient, or if we just leave it for the status quo. And this will have sort of resonating impacts for decades to come, both for us here in the West, nationally, as well as internationally. Now, a decade is potentially almost as long as whoever we elect in November might be in office for. And it is because of this reason that our candidates need to have some discussion about water resource management policies, because they will be leading us on whatever course it is. And this will not just impact us here, but this will have impacts internationally. Talking about water is, of course, kind of scary, right? Because we all need water. But in fact, what my research emphasizes are humanity's greatest strengths. And these are human resilience and human innovation. It is the incredible ingenuity of peoples 12,000 years ago who, with far less sophisticated technology, they had stone tools, less resources and less knowledge, were able to overcome issues related to water resource management and find solutions. And it is this that gives me hope for us today. Thank you.